driving meaningful impact. Sopra Steria Next.
So hello to everyone. I'm your host, Giles Colborne. I'm Strategy Director here at Sopra Steria Next. Last year, the generative AI market was estimated about $7 to $9 billion globally. And our Sopra Steria Next's conservative estimate is that that's going to grow to be about $100 billion in 2028. There's absolutely no doubt the technology will be part of our everyday lives at home and at work. In fact, you might be surprised at just how much AI already shapes our lives, from cancer screening to setting prices on your Airbnb to recommending movies on Netflix. I'm joined by Becky Davis, Consulting Director at Sopra Steria Next, who's leading some of our major change programs involving AI. She'll be explaining why AI needs to be a human conversation rather than a technology conversation. So please note, we'll be recording this session. We'll email you to share that with you. And we'll be following up with some questions from me and from you, our audience. You should be able to see the Slido button in the bottom right hand of your WebEx screen. That's the place where you can type questions for the Q&A. So feel free to add them as we go. If you prefer to see subtitles, there's a closed caption button on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen as well. So Becky, tell us, why do we need a human conversation about AI?
Oh, amazing. Thanks so much, Giles. And good morning, everybody. I'm so pleased to have you with me this morning as I take you on a bit of a journey and hopefully share lots of the lessons that I've learned over the last 18 months. So I'm going to start with an image. Why am I starting this morning with a picture of a snowy forest? Well, I think it's always nice, isn't it, to know a little bit about the presenter that is presenting to you this morning. And this is where I spend most of my weekends, out walking in nature with my dog and with my husband. But probably more importantly is the timing of this photo. So this photo was taken back in January 2023. So not long after ChatGPT launched, or OpenAI launched its first Gen AI large language model out to the public in November 2022. And that sparked my interest in AI. I'm not a technologist. I am a business transformation consultant. So I really see my role as being the interpreter between the technology and the business and the customers that I worked with. But I realized that AI was going to change the way that we worked, change the way that we live our lives. So it sparked my interest and started me on an 18-month journey to really start to understand AI, being as curious as I possibly could be, reading as much books as I could, listening to as many podcasts as I could, deep diving into some of the technical training, which absolutely blew my mind, to be honest with you. So what I am hoping to do with you this morning is just to help to expedite some of that learning, really, and share with you my understanding around AI in hopefully a language that we can all understand as humans living in an AI world. So lots of lessons and hopefully some good human conversation and questions at the end of the presentation that I'm going to be sharing with you. I'm going to start with what is AI, because actually it's a question that I get asked a lot, and it's a question that we talk about a lot within our own business, within Sopra Steria. And we've come up with quite a clear definition now of what AI means to us in Sopra Steria. There's many, many definitions. You can Google search them or ask ChatGPT 4.0. But for us here in Sopra Steria, AI, artificial intelligence, is really a set of technologies that allow computers to learn and help solve problems by finding patterns in huge amounts of information. AI can mimic human capabilities. It can feel very human, actually, when you're interacting with AI. And those human capabilities that are mimicked are communication, learning, and decision-making. I think what's important to stress is that while AI can enhance innovation and productivity, AI is not going to solve everything as we currently stand today. AI still relies on human input and expertise to operate at its full potential. And we collaborate with AI for us as humans to become more effective, more efficient, and more creative. And we call this a principle called human in the loop. And we'll be exploring this as we go through the presentation this morning. Most of us will have used AI today. AI technologies have been around for many, many years. So even if you've not been intentional about it, you will have used AI today. So if you've asked Alexa to play your favorite track as you're making your coffee and preparing your breakfast this morning, or you've used Google Maps to go and do the school run, or you've popped onto Facebook to let everybody know about the exciting webinar that you've joined today, or LinkedIn actually for that matter of fact, or you might have watched your favorite murder crime series on Netflix last night, or gone on to Amazon or eBay to buy something for the family. Each one of those platforms are already starting to use machine learning, natural language processing, large language models, predictive analytics in order to improve the experience or to improve their operational efficiency today. So AI as a technology has been around for a long, long time, and we are using it day to day, whether it's intentional or not. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned over the last 18 months is that AI is not just a solution technology. AI is a general purpose technology. So just like we've introduced the internet into our lives, just like smartphones, AI will soon be a feature of everything that you do as a different way to deliver value or solve some of the complex problems that you or your organization already works on. It's here, it's general purpose, it's going to affect every element of our life. My second big lesson is really, as a human in an AI world, you don't really need to be a technologist or a data scientist, right? There are some amazing, clever people that are looking at how we build the technology and how we use data in a slightly different way. But what is really important is to understand what these new technologies can do. How can they start to add value for us? So here's some of the technologies and some of the language that you might be hearing in your day-to-day work or in your conversations with your family and friends. Machine learning is a type of AI technology that allows computers to learn from data and improve over time. And it does that without explicit programming. It identifies patterns in data to make predictions and decisions. Natural language processing enables computers to understand and interact with us using our human language. How incredible is that? So it really helps machines to process and analyze text and speech, really bridging the gap between us as humans and computers' understanding. Computer vision, another field of AI, enables machines to analyze and make sense of visual data. So this is the technology that we're starting to see in autonomous vehicles, as an example, or if we're looking at different face technologies or how we analyze there. And generative AI is probably the newest of the AI technologies. Generative AI creates new content like text, images, audio, video. And the way that generative AI works is primarily with these large language models that you can see just in the text box below, which is about it learns from huge, large data sets to produce outputs that mimic the style and the structure based on the data that it's been trained on. So the way I think about it is it's almost like a huge autocomplete. You put in a question, it responds based on what it thinks is most likely to be the next set of language that you can expect. Large language models, just to build on that a little bit more, are probably what most of you are experiencing if you're having a bit of a play with generative AI. So it's what we're seeing through the large frontier language models like OpenAI's ChatGPT. It's at 4.0 at the moment. Hopefully 5 will be coming soon, or you may be using Gemini, or you may be using Claude 3.5. They are trained on huge amounts of data. and they cost billions and billions and billions to create. There's quite a sustainability story that sits behind those large language models as well, but we can come on to that with responsible AI. So really there are many more AI technologies that sit beneath this, but these are the core ones for me in a sense of how you can start to understand what the different technologies and elements of the different technologies can do for you. The other thing to remember as you start to explore AI is that AI is not human. AI is based on data. AI is data, not based on data. AI is data. So data is the foundation for all AI solutions. And I saw a model like this on LinkedIn, and it really, really helped me, because when you start to interact with AI, it can feel very human. It really can feel very magic in a sense of how it's responding, and you start to think, is it really thinking for itself? But actually, all AI is based on data. And that's why it's really important for us as humans to understand that when we're starting to look at AI solutions, either whether we're building them, bringing them into our organization, the quality of the data going in will demand the quality of the value that's coming out the other side of it. So if you've got poor data sets as part of your building your AI models, you're going to get poor quality out the other side. The other thing that I heard a lot, the words that I heard a lot, were about the black box. So if you think back to the description that I gave to you around machine learning, so machine learning allows a set of algorithms against data which finds those patterns, finds those outputs across those data, but it also improves itself. So quite often you can end up in a position, either the data engineer or us as humans, the humans that are receiving that AI solution, not really understanding quite how that AI solution has delivered the output that you need. And that is called the black box. And so that openness and the transparency of really understanding the data set, and then how the different AI technologies have then created a new answer as a result of that data set, is really important for openness and transparency. So you need to choose your data wisely. You need to be curious about what data your AI solution is using whenever you're bringing AI into your workplace or into your personal life. And to help to bring this to life a little bit, I want to talk to you about a case study with a client that we worked with last year. So this was a banking client, and they'd already bought an AI solution. It was a fairness assessment piece of software that helped to decide who that bank was going to lend to in the future. Having bought that AI solution, they had human conversations to think about, where has that data set come from? Could this AI be producing biased outcomes for us? Could it invade people's privacy? Or could it fail to be transparent? So can we really know and understand how that piece of AI that we have procured will produce fair and consistent decisions to help us to lend to our clients? They were also worried about regulation, and although we're outside of the European Union now, there is obviously the AI Act that is coming into Europe, and there will be regulation that's pushing forward here in the UK as well. So how could they be sure that the AI solution that they bought today was non-biased, wouldn't invade privacy, wouldn't fail to be transparent, and would meet regulation? So we worked with them for just over 12 weeks, just analysing every policy that they had within their banking system, looking at their culture and their current ways of working, and looking at the processes that humans do today to ensure that there is fairness in the way that they do their lending. As a result of that, what we did was we built humans into the loop. And this is a really important lesson whenever we are integrating AI into our workplace today. So we help them to build a structured governance board that could help them to unpick and make sure that they've got the right mitigation in place around the AI solutions that were coming into their organizations, but also help them to create a data ethics team. So a team of humans that are working alongside those AI solutions in a continual evaluation loop to make sure that the fairness, the transparency, the data security is always in play. The third big lesson that I've learned on my journey over the past 18 months is that the way we interact and get value from AI is very different to the way that we use traditional technologies today. And whenever I'm explaining this to a teammate or a customer or even somebody in my own family, I'll go back to the humble but the brilliant spreadsheet as a piece of technology that we use every day just as part of our working lives. The difference with traditional technology is that when we've built technology in the past, mostly we've identified all of the user cases, all of the reasons why we need to have that particular piece of technology in play for us. We've understood why. We then build the technology in order to deliver the outputs that we require. There is a key set of instructions that come with the spreadsheet. So if you want to understand 3 plus 6, we put a sum that sits in behind that particular cell, and it gives us a very specific output at the end. We still need to train people how to use it. You will still need user manuals and support for people to get expert at spreadsheets. I'm not one of those people, but I know many people that are. But it's a very traditional model. We understand the user cases, we have specific instructions on how to use that technology, and then we get very specific value outcomes at the end of it. What's really interesting as we start to introduce Gen AI in particular into our workplace is actually there's a very different relationship that we need to have as humans with this technology. So whereas traditional IT solutions like the humble spreadsheet have focused on identifying all of the user cases that we need, introducing Gen AI, so Copilot's a really good example of this, requires a shift in mindset because we don't yet know fully how this technology is going to improve our working day, what it is able to do for us. So what we have to do is create experiential learning cycles, as we're calling them now. We have to discover what this piece of technology can offer us through experience. Because we're not relying on predefined user cases, we're relying on a set of technologies over a set of data that when we interact with it using natural language processing, so we might ask Copilot, as an example, to record our meeting that we're having with colleagues on Teams and to provide some notes for us as a result. Only by interacting with the technology and asking it different things can we explore its potential. And through that, what we're learning is what are human-only tasks, so things that only we can do as humans, what we might hand over to Copilot, and what we might collaborate on together. That's a very, very different experience to how we are using traditional technology today. What we're seeing as we're rolling Copilot out within our own organisation and rolling out Copilot with our customers as well, is that humans are quite enjoying this experience, but they can be a bit disenfranchised as well. Well, I expected it to do this for me and it didn't quite do it. Or I put in a set of data from a spreadsheet and I thought it would come up with all the answers, and it's not quite done that for us. But actually how we're asking Copilot to work with us, the types of prompts, and you'll hear this word a lot, prompts is about the instructions that you're giving this particular piece of technology. Through that experimentation, you learn what Copilot is good at doing and what Copilot is not so good at doing. What we are seeing is that for people that are now adopting Copilot over the past 6 months or so, AI helps them to save time, really focus on their most important work, be creative. I know it's extremely helpful for me when I get stuck on a sentence and I need it just to push me over the next edge. And actually what we are seeing is that the heaviest Teams users that are using Copilot are summarising 8 hours of meetings every month, and that's equivalent to an entire working day. So you can really start to see how generative AI can be adding to your workday, but the way that we get benefit out of it is very, very different to the way that we use traditional technologies today. So understanding that is really important for the change process. So how ready are humans to embrace this new relationship with AI? Well, it's been really interesting for me over the last 18 months or so, because this technology revolution, which I believe it is really impacting knowledge workers. So it's impacting people like me. And this is having an amplified change curve for all of the individuals that are involved. And I'm really seeing that with the customers and the clients that I'm going out and talking to. They start from a position of this is really exciting, and then they're moving to a position where this is really scary. I want to ignore this. I don't want to engage in this, to a position of, okay, this could be interesting. How do we get hold of this new technology and start to move it forward? People are quite fearful, though, of what it means for them and what it means for their role. The second really interesting thing is about the accelerated pace of change. So it's an interesting challenge for us all. If you're right in the AI world as I'm at the moment, if you know, you know, is what I keep saying to people. You write a piece of thought leadership, or you're talking to a customer around a specific piece of technology, and what we're seeing is this speeding up as a result of AI coming through. It's the fastest progress through technology that we've seen in time. So that accelerated pace of change is an interesting challenge for us all. There was a brilliant piece of research that was done that was delivered by Microsoft and LinkedIn. And I love this piece of research because it really added some data and some clarity again to what I was seeing out in my own workforce, but also with my customers and my clients as well. And the purpose of the research was to really understand how we were starting to adopt AI into the workplace. And it came up with some really interesting stats. So 79% of leaders believe that their company needs to adopt AI to stay competitive, but 60% of leaders are really worried about the leadership and the plan and the vision in order to be able to lead it. And what we are seeing is a bit of, and again, I'm seeing this on the ground as well, is described in this report as leaders are stuck in AI inertia. So there's a certain paralysis at the moment around what is AI, what can it do, what are the security risks that sit around it, and probably more than anything, how do we just get going with this at enterprise scale? It's quite a big shift. It's a very different technology to deploy compared to traditional technologies. So we're seeing this really interesting position for leaders at the moment where they are stuck in what's being described as AI inertia. But interestingly, what's happening from the ground up is that employees are saying they want AI at work, and they're not going to wait for companies to catch up. So 75% of global knowledge workers are using AI at work today, and that has doubled in the past 6 months. 78% of AI users are bringing their own AI tools to work. And 52%, I find this really interesting, of people that are using AI at work don't want to admit that they're using it. And there's a really nice term that's been coined by a great AI leader, a guy called Ethan Mollick, and he calls this 52% of people secret cyborgs, so using AI at work but not really letting anybody know about it. And he did some research into that, and the rationale was, again, they're fearful about the organizational policies, the guardrails, the structure that sits around using AI at work. They quite like the kudos that comes with using AI at work, right? There's, something about being able to do your tasks faster and quicker. And the third element is really about, there's concern that they are if they're explicit about using AI, are they being explicit to their organisation that they could be moved out of the organisation, impact against their own role? So it's really an interesting perspective to be working with big organisations, big public sector, finance, aerospace and defence at the moment, because we're in this strange position where we've got a bit of paralysis at the top, but we've got a workforce that's good and ready to go. This approach means, though, that we are missing out on some of the benefits that come from that strategic enterprise AI use at scale. And it's also putting company data at risk if you haven't got those guardrails in place. And we know that that's the number one concern for the year ahead when we speak to leaders across the business, is cybersecurity and data privacy. But an interesting position to be in. So whether you lead from the top or you crowdsource your innovation across your organisation, what I would advise is that creating the space to build consensus around what is responsible and what is safe AI is really going to prepare your workforce for the future and everything that AI brings. And you'll hear the term a lot around responsible AI. So what is it? Well, I can't imagine that your boardroom agenda have got all of these headings on here right now, but I imagine what you're going to see over the next 12 months or so is that there will be different conversations that are generated in the boardroom as a result of AI. So when we're talking about responsible AI from a Sopra Steria perspective, we're talking about regulation and governance and keeping a close eye on that. Security is becoming more of a boardroom topic, but again, that data privacy, that cybersecurity, that operational resilience, as you're relying more on technology for your day-to-day work, is going to become more prevalent. Ethics is a brand new topic, isn't it? When before, if you would have said to me 2 years ago, we're talking about ethics and fairness and bias, and they weren't general conversations that you would see at that top level in that top level boardroom. But these are going to become prime and center as you start to introduce AI into your organization. And sustainability is a really, really interesting one. So using those large language models, the frontier language models, has a huge carbon footprint, a massive carbon footprint. So I think we're going to be talking a lot more about sustainability. How do we stick to our sustainability goals as we start to introduce AI more into our organisations? And when's the right time to be using AI and when's the right time to be using humans? And I think sustainability will move into that space a lot more. Culture and workforce. So HR have got a really big space and place in this new AI world. So really thinking about your culture, thinking about, are you an innovative organisation? What does your partnerships look like? What does that human and AI collaboration need to look like in the future? And also your workforce. So what your policy is around AI usage, what the impact's going to be on your workforce, what are you going to be using that additional value for? These are conversations. HR are going to have to engage in conversations in technology in a way that we've not seen before. It's interesting, it's exciting, but these are new spaces that our leaders need to move into. And just to help to bring that to life a little bit, we did a great piece of work with Scottish Government, who have got a very clear vision to be the digital nation of the future. And they'd already developed a high-level strategy around the use of AI and the use of digital in a sense of delivering brilliant public services in the future. But it lacked those next steps. It lacked that cohesion around how do we bring together the different elements and departments and knowledge and understanding across the whole of government. It was also extremely confused by the regulatory and ethical principles. So I think that's a real challenge for us in the UK. How do you kind of navigate some of that European legislation and start to make sense of the emerging regulation that we're going to see coming through in this next government? And it will be really interesting to see what Labour does next as well. So we worked with Scottish Government to help them to identify those pockets of expertise. We pulled together the fragmented knowledge, the key people within the organisation that could drive forward the innovation. We helped them to identify their best practice, and then we worked with their senior stakeholders to build a robust governance model. I'm coming back to that one again because it's a really big theme in all of the work that we're doing with clients at the moment, and then worked with stakeholders to build a costed, defined next steps roadmap to move them forward to being the ethical digital nation that they've got a vision for being in the future. You might find, though, within your organisation that your AI experimentation doesn't start top down, it starts bottom up, and it might start with a problem that you're looking to solve and a new team of people to solve it. And again, we're seeing this a lot with our clients as to how they start to introduce AI into their business. There will be many, many different ways that you bring AI in, but what I wanted to call out here is the different disciplines that you will need to bring together to have a successful AI implementation. Again, it's quite different to what you're seeing with traditional technology or the way we've done traditional digital transformation. You need data science and machine learning engineers. You'll need to bring together individuals with that ethics and compliance knowledge, alongside your business analysts, your data engineers, your IT and security professionals, human resources, as discussed in a way that they've not been engaged before, UX and UI designers, making sure that human and experience right at the heart of that. Change management's really interesting with implementation of AI, working and partnering with BCG, who've been at the forefront of Gen AI implementation over the past couple of years, is saying actually it's 20% technology delivery in most of the work that they've been doing, and 80% working with people, change managing, supporting people to adopt these new ways of working. And we need the domain knowledge, so people who really understand, because we don't yet know the use cases, people who really understand how that business works on a day-to-day basis. So AI quite often comes into an organisation solving a problem, but what we're seeing is very different teams coming together in order to move that forward. Again, just to bring that to life quickly, we have had a brilliant, I've absolutely loved this AI project, working with public sector, really helping them to understand why people are leaving a vocation, their preferred career choice, and how we can support them to stay. So we're working with our client who's got workforce that has a really high turnover. They're losing experienced, knowledgeable staff. It's really impacting the diversity negatively within the workforce as a whole, seeing a drop in that team morale, and the public image of this client was really suffering as a result. So what we did is took the historical HR data, all of the attrition data from the HR teams. We cleansed that data, we prepared that data, just like the diagram on the earlier slide. You know, we had to really prepare that data to get good quality value out. And then what we did was built predictive analytics using AI to help us to understand the key trends and the key problem areas of why people were leaving that vocation. So as a result of that, we've understood better why people are leaving and when people are leaving, and then we're able to support our public sector client to start looking at different interventions that they can put in place over this next 12 months, and we'll track to see whether or not that makes a difference to attrition levels moving forward. But a really great case study of how AI can make a really big impact on society. But however you bring AI into your organisation, whether you're looking at those top-down guardrails, if you like, that responsible AI, or whether you're looking to introduce it through your through a problem that you're trying to solve, you are going to rely on partnering and an ecosystem. So I just wanted to share with you, you know, the system that we have had to build over the last 18 months in Sopra Steria to make sure that we are accessing all of the right technologies, all of the right investments in order to be able to move that out to clients. So whichever way you bring it into your organization, that partnering and that ecosystem is going to be really, really key for you as an organization. So bit of a whistle-stop tour on what I've learned and how you might be bringing AI into your organization. So what could you go and do next as a result of listening to this, as a result of having some of that new language and that new understanding? What could you do next? Well, I'd just like to remind you again that AI is a general purpose technology. So I'm really sorry, I can't give you today, because I would love one myself, a universal guide or a handbook that can really help you to understand the full potential and boundaries. We need humans going out there, experimenting, playing with Gen AI, playing with predictive analytics, really understanding how AI works out there so that we can start to capture collectively those user cases and really understand where the value will sit. So this really is a large human experiment to see how AI will be changing our lives. So will you start at the top or focus at the problem? The reality is that you'll probably do a bit of everything. And when I reflect on the journey that we've had as being our own business, as being a Sopra Steria, that's certainly the pattern and the pathway that I'm seeing. So we've built the guardrails, we've put in the governance models, we're having those conversations about what good, responsible AI looks like for us as an organization, but for also when we are partnering and supporting our clients. And then we're looking at the smaller problems and starting to build out those AI solutions that really help to impact the way that we work every day. Everything from Copilot through to knowledge management, through to how do I access or ask a question of HR through an AI chatbot. So the reality is you're probably going to need to do a bit of everything within your strategy. My next piece of advice is just go and experiment for yourself. This has probably had the biggest impact on me over the last 18 months. You know, choose your large language model. You can choose anything that you like. You can, whatever system you like. Most are free now. But these are some of the things that Gen AI as a kind of co-assistant do for me. So great AI coach, checks in on my learning. I can ask it to keep me true to my values, keep me looping me back to responsible AI. Brilliant as a research assistant, brilliant as a general assistant. I love now the extra features of just being able to take a photo of handwritten notes and just get them written up. Also very, very good as a sounding board. There's lots, as you will find as you go to explore with AI, that AI is still not so great at. So creating a diagram or a photo, sometimes they still look really creepy. I'm like, but they're getting better for sure. And automate, you know, obviously there's no automation that sits with Gen AI at the moment. So I'm really interested to see what happens with the next iterations of these large language models, because I think that would be a really exciting progress moving forward. So yeah, go and experiment with yourself. Go and experiment for yourself is probably the best learning that you can do to really start to understand what AI can do for you. And my final piece of advice really is bridge the gap for your teams. So be human. This is a framework that I just built out for myself really, but I've started to share it with other people because I think it's really helpful. So thinking about the discussions, what I've shared with you today about where people are on the change curve, thinking about how important transparency and trust is, thinking about what does this really look like to use every day and having that experimentation yourself, but also being really relatable, sharing those stories in a really human way and being open and honest about what's worked, what hasn't worked, and how humans are going to have to interact with AI in a very different way to how we interact with technology today. So that's me, Giles. I mean, please do, colleagues, please do reach out to me and continue the conversation on LinkedIn. As I say, every conversation's a good conversation about AI, but I don't know if we've got any questions.
We do. Thank you, Becky. That's fantastic. And I can see questions coming in on the Slido. If you've got yours, please add them. And Becky, listening to you, I mean, this one of the things that you always say to me is this is such a fast-moving field. Given that things are changing week by week, day by day, how do you create a strategy that holds good when things are changing so quickly?
Yeah, I think it's quite a tough one. So I think there's a big shift that needs to happen for every single one of us to recognize that what I'm talking about today, or what you're talking about today, or what we've built into a strategy today might change next week, next month, in the next 6 months. So there is something very different, I think, that's required for us as leaders, and that's that ability to be agile, to keep the communications going, and to be ready to move with the changes that we're seeing within technology. So part of the value, if you like, of what I've talked about today around going in with that top-down strategy, you can put in your guardrails, you can have some certainty around governance, you can align to your own organisation's policies and values, can't you, around what does good security look like, what does good data privacy look like. It's likely that those anchors aren't going to change significantly. But what you will need to be ready for is when the new sets of regulation come in. And again, with the new government, I'm not sure how quickly that's going to move. There was some progress with the previous government, but we'll have to wait and see what this looks like from a priority area. So I think there is some value in setting the guardrails, but being ready to shift and change those as the regulation that comes in. But I think more importantly, it's how we start the experimentation bottom up and enable and equip our workforce to be prepared for change being a continuum. And I know that we've been talking about that for many, many years, but actually the pace of change as a continuum it is going to increase, and actually we need to start investing in our workforce so that they are able to respond to that.
So creating an environment for innovation and change rather than trying to dictate it in a fast-paced world.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. It's going to be a challenge. It's a challenge for us in our own organisation as a big, large, global corporate organisation. It's going to be a challenge for government, banking, everyone actually, unless you're a small startup. But we're going to have to find models that allow the guardrails to come in top down, but the bottom up experimentation and crowdsourcing of innovation to lead the way as well.
One of the things that puts me in mind of is the different models of innovation. There's 4 models of innovation, and the need to be quite intentional about where you see the opportunity for a general technology like this to be applied. So are you looking to create some radical innovation, the kind of innovation that creates an entirely new market? Are you looking to do disruptive innovation? So, if radical innovation is creating a new market, like inventing the World Wide Web or inventing the modern smartphone, and disruptive innovation would be undermining a business model, creating an Uber, or sustaining your position in the market using AI tools to leapfrog ahead, or simply incremental improvements. Being intentional about the type of innovation you want is as important as having those guardrails and that governance in place, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I love that model for innovation. It's one that we use a lot, isn't it? About being really intentional about the type of innovation and change that you're looking to put in place. But I think it also relates back to the different teams of humans that you need to come together in order to be able to innovate. And I think it's one of the things that can feel unsettling and also exciting. Both can be true at the same time, if that makes sense, around AI, because we don't understand all of the user cases. We don't understand how, when we start to fit these different parts of AI technologies together, the difference that it can make. So I think two key things really: having the structure for that innovation and being very clear about what you're hoping that innovation to drive. The second is around pulling together those different teams of humans, bringing different disciplines together in a way that we haven't done before, so that we can start to really understand and take advantage of innovation through the technology. So it's exciting.
That's brilliant. That leads into a couple of questions in the chat. Somebody asked, you talked about those different roles, and I wonder where you see the emphasis within those roles. Have you got a sense of, what percentages of those different roles are needed? Or I suspect you're going to say, well, it depends on the problem you're trying to solve, right?
It really does. It really does depend on, I think there's a number of factors, or certainly the experience we've had so far is there's a number of factors. So it depends on how mature the organization is in a sense of readiness for AI. So, if the guardrails are in place, if the culture has been shifted to an innovation model, as an example, if you've really defined what the user cases or the business problems are going to depend on how much you need each one of those different disciplines to lean in. I think the important thing is, though, that in each conversation and each team, you've got an input and a flavour from each of that team, because that's how you're going to get to an actual solution that works through AI. It's going to be very, very difficult to get an AI solution working if you haven't considered the ethics and the biases that sits underneath that data. It's going to be very, very difficult to get that AI solution working if you haven't created that safe space for experimenting and working with the workforce to make it really clear about how their world's going to be different in a few weeks or a few months. So I think it really is dependent on what you are trying to solve. I know that's probably not the answer that people want to hear, but it really is dependent on that and the maturity of the organisation that you are working within.
I can totally see that. I can see how, if you're ready to throttle up, then emphasizing the technology teams kind of makes sense. But often what you're trying to do is to set the conditions for change, as you said, and that requires you to line people up. I mean, that's a big theme also of your talk, right? That need to make sure the organization is safe and people are safe, as well as the need to move quickly. And you're going to have some individuals that are really keen to move quickly and are secret cyborgs, and there's a risk there for data. So it feels like it comes back again and again to communication. It is a human conversation.
Definitely is a human conversation, and we're just, again, sharing a story. We're tackling that internally in Sopra Steria now. We're really looking at those overarching communications that can go out to the broadest staff set. We have over 6,000 members of staff here just in the UK. Many people have many different roles within the organisation. And AI will affect them and their roles and add value in many different ways. So how do you start to build a story and a narrative that gets everybody on board with your AI journey? It's quite a challenge, actually. It's quite a challenge.
And what's the best? Well, there's another question from the chat. What's the best way to go about having those early conversations with teams? I mean, have you got a sense of where the place to begin is?
Yeah, definitely. I think first of all, it's modelling that it's okay to have conversations around AI. So it's getting to a position yourself where you are comfortable to introduce the topic of AI. And as I said, there's a number of ways that you can go and do that. Go and have a bit of an experiment yourself. You've come onto this webinar, so hopefully you've got some language now and some ideas and topics and ways of starting to introduce it to your team. So just start to get confident, but look internally as well. How are you feeling about AI? Are you excited about AI? What are you thinking that AI might add to you and your team in the future, and build your confidence around that? And then just start to introduce it. One of the things that I did in January this year, and I think it's probably driven my team mad and probably my family as well, to be honest with you, is I said, I'm just not going to have a conversation unless we've got AI as part of the topic. So I managed to weave it in any way that I possibly can. But you'll be amazed once you start to do that, how much people want to talk to you about AI. And it will either be because they are excited about it, or they are fearful about it, or they are a secret cyborg and they're already using it, or they're jumping at the bit going, actually I've learned and understood a little bit about what this technology can do, and I can see how it could add real value. So my advice would be is look internally first. Think about how you feel about AI, educate yourself as much as you can, be curious, go and have an experimentation yourself, and then just start introducing it as part of your day-to-day conversations. And you'll be surprised where those conversations take you. It's probably been one of the most powerful things that I've done.
Excellent. Thank you. We've got a question from the chat as well. How do HR professionals and HR practices incorporate AI to become more effective rather than being replaced? I mean, that's a big fear for a lot of people. And is there a specific direction that people in that field should go to stay competitive?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think talking about AI generally, I think you can see the emphasis that I've put on the role of HR in digital transformation moving forward. That's really different. That's really different to the role that HR have played in the past. They've not been kind of core and central. So I think there's a conversation to be had in HR departments about that. How are you going to go and engage in conversations with your CTOs and your CIOs and anybody else who's leading transformation across the piece, and say, hey, hold on a minute, I think we've got something about our culture here, and I think we've got something about thinking about our workforce for the future. I think HR as a service and how AI will be impacting on that in the future is really interesting. We've had some experience ourselves, and we're starting to work with our clients to introduce some different AI solutions there. I mean, one of the key areas is around knowledge management, but I would say our lessons learned from our internal HR transformation and also working with our clients is, humans are in the loop always. So, how you use AI to manage your knowledge, to respond to your workforce, to answer questions, to get the right information at the right time. All we've seen actually is that it's significantly increased capacity for HR staff to be really focused on that added value stuff that's really important. So those more complex conversations that you need to be having with your workforce, or thinking about the strategy, or thinking about the training strategy that you need to have moving forward. So I think that for me, there's two elements for HR. Think about your role moving forward in AI digital transformation, because I think you've got a really big role to play. So how are you going to equip your staff? How are you going to move into that space? How do you enable those conversations alongside your CTOs and your CIOs? And secondly is, how do you embrace AI in the work that you're doing today and take away some of the mundane tasks, or give a better customer experience, and really move yourself up higher up the value chain to do the stuff that's really important. All about human connection, isn't it? HR, having those good conversations together.
I've really heard that. I mean, in the case study that you presented, you had sort of the machine learning looking at the HR data and spotting patterns in it that people couldn't see. spotting things in there that humans couldn't see about. These are the people who are at risk of leaving. But then it was up to the human in the loop to go and investigate and come up with the strategies for dealing with that.
Exactly.
We often
Yeah,
think about AI, and we're told about AI as replacing humans, but that really was about augmenting, and it wasn't about getting rid of some people in HR. It's about enabling them to be more effective and to have more of an impact on the performance of the organization.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's been totally our experience as well with our own internal HR transformation too. We've just seen a big shift, a shift in what people are doing, but a shift to much higher value activities, people feeling much more satisfied at work, and actually the broader workforce having a better experience as well.
I think that's a great kind of summary of your talk, really. That it's not about being afraid. It's about going out, experimenting, engaging with people, having a human conversation, and looking for those places where actually what it lets you do is be more effective. It's not a zero-sum game. There's something to gain for everyone here.
Absolutely.
Becky, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much. And a reminder to everyone listening that we'll be sending out a recording of this. And so we'll be looking to continue that conversation with you in future episodes of our webinar series. Thanks very much, Becky.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much, Charles.
Driving meaningful impact. Sopra Steria Next.